become the least important person in your business? I just want you to think about that for a second. What would it look like for you to become the least important person? That spark new actions. Welcome back to today's episode. Welcome back to this. Welcome back to the Higher Grade Help Podcast. I'm super excited to have this diagnosing conversation with you today. If you remember in the last episode, I mentioned that we're starting a new series here on the podcast, and this particular series is going to help you free yourself from the technical grind that you are currently experiencing in your company, in your organization, with the goal in mind to scale. So if scaling is on your mind and you want to do it in a way where it's sustainable, it's empowering, it sets you free from being glued or tied to your phone, to your laptop, to always communicating with each of the moving parts that's happening in your business, and you want to free yourself a bit from overworking yourself just to see more growth, then this series is for you. This is the second episode in the series. And today we're talking about freeing yourself from the ownership trap, what I call the CEO ownership trap. So if you didn't listen to the first episode of this series, go back and listen to the one right before this. And if you're ready, let's go ahead and jump right in. So remember I mentioned in our last episode that the technical work that you've surrounded yourself with, it's almost encased you in this cycle of pride and admiration for what you've built, and it's simultaneously holding you captive to the level of growth that you're allowing your business to see. So what I want you to think about as we talk about freeing yourself from the CEO ownership trap, and this work, before we talk about what that physically looks like delegation, and we talk about the step by step, the how to accomplish that, first we need to, or I want to encourage you to do the mental work that's necessary for this to even become a reality for you. Let me tell you, when I started my first two businesses, actually my first three, my first business, I started an online, like a digital product store, and actually it was on Amazon. I wrote an ebook way back in 2014. That was the first product I ever truly sold online. That was my own creation. And from there, I started learning about online marketing. I started learning about e-commerce, CPA, all of that kind of stuff, right? If you guys remember, like the era of when network marketing first, well, I'm not going to say when network marketing first took off, because network marketing has been around for a very long time. But back in like the early 2010s, that whole era from like 2010 to, I'll say, 2016-ish, there was this burst going on in the network marketing world, where a lot of companies were coming online and selling like digital products, digital health food products, these different sorts of things. So in that era, I jumped into the boat, and I also started promoting some of these products. And I remember the first time I ever put myself into my own CEO ownership track. This looked like me constantly on my laptop 15, 16 hours a day. I was researching, I was always marketing something, writing a blog. It was exciting, like that honeymoon phase. And looking back on it, I just had no idea. I had no clue what I was doing. But now, with the experience that I have, we're talking 10 years later, going on 11 years later. Yeah, I just celebrated a decade of being a entrepreneur last summer. And now that I look back on it, I realize that it's not, the goal is not to clock as many hours as you possibly can on your company. And I know you'll hear this a lot, like, oh, if you want to make it, you have to get used to not sleeping. Like you can sleep when you're successful, that kind of language. But I realize now it's not necessarily, you're going to have to put hours in, you're going to have to put time in, but it's more so, how do you start to look at what you've created as something separate from the value that you see within yourself? Because a lot of times we link we marry the two, and we say, I created this thing, so I'm this amazing, wonderful person, which you are. But we tend to stroke our own egos because of the entity or the idea or the brand that we've created. Okay, follow me. And so when we do that, that happens naturally whenever you start a company or whenever you start a new project, because you're excited. It's a great idea. It's innovative. It's something that I'm sure you've done much research, and you made sure that you were bringing quality to the marketplace. So rightfully so, you should celebrate yourself. But that becomes an issue when you don't know how to separate what you've created from the gratification it brings to your ego. Because then what happens is you start to form this belief. I'm going to get into this in a second. Okay, we're going to bring that Psychology 101 class I took this summer into this conversation in just a second. But that starts to morph into you now saying, I'm the only one who can manage this. I'm the only one who can make this grow and scale and be successful. And when you're so absorbed with your abilities, with your name being on the front door, the virtual front door, so to speak, right? Your name is on the building. When you become enmeshed, that's the word. When you get enmeshed in that, now you're locking yourself into a trap, what I call the CEO ownership trap, that truthfully only you can get yourself out of. So there's a concept that I learned years ago while in personal therapy, and it was called the TBA. It was called TBA. TBA is a triangle that forms when you have a initial thought. So you have an initial thought that becomes concrete, and it sets in as a belief. And then your belief sparks the action that you take afterwards. So the thought forms the belief, which manifests the action. Okay, TBA. If you're inside of my structure coaching program, you know the TBA. We go through TBA and how to reformat that whole methodology in your mind, so you can start thinking and making decisions for your organization, for your team, primarily as a leader. And you can separate stroking your ego from what's best for the team and what's best for the company, right? So shout out to any structure alumni who've gone through that module. But I'm bringing that up because once you've gotten yourself into this belief that you're the one who should manage everything, I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself, what's the thought process behind that belief? And I could tell you from past coaching clients who have worked with my team and I, the thought process is typically, I feel scattered, I feel overworked, I feel worried that I can't keep up with the commitments I made. One of the biggest thoughts we've seen across the 15 or so service-based businesses and coaching businesses who have gone through our program in the last two or so years, really since after the pandemic, I'll say 2021 up until now, the biggest thought that we've seen is that there's a cemented belief of fear that you're afraid after each sale because you don't know how you can handle more customers. You want more customers, you want to scale. You have no problem creating cash flow and closing deals and attracting ideal clients. Your red carpet clients are literally waiting at the door to work with you constantly, but you are afraid after each sale, or you feel a tinge of fear after each sale because you don't know how you can handle more customers. Why? Because you feel scattered, you feel overworked, right? So it goes right back to that thought. But the origin of this is you have the belief that you're the one that should keep managing everything. Okay. So we're talking marketing for your service based business. We're talking delivering the actual service itself, whether it's coaching or classes or workshops or physical fitness trainings, right? Boot camps, VIP days, whatever the services that you offer. Okay. Or maybe you do tax services, maybe you do financial services, whatever it is, it goes right back to you being the most important part of the business, and you haven't separated the operations and what needs to be done from the egotistical side that is telling you, I can do this to the quality that it needs to be done. So what action does that manifest? So we have the thought, we know what the belief is, and what's the action. So the action it manifests is you just start doing everything yourself. You feel like you're the only one that's still managing everything because you get up and you physically start doing everything by yourself. And I want to challenge you on this episode and this conversation today to do one thing. Ask yourself and actually write it out. Like, get a piece of paper, journal this out. What would it look like for you to be the least important person in the business? Okay. I'm diagnosing you with being stuck in the CEO ownership trap. That's the diagnosis. And the action for us to begin to work on this so you can heal this, so you can get whole again and experience free time in your life. We're coming up into back to school. We're going into, in my opinion, the best season of the year, which is fall. And there's a lot of opportunity out here for you to network, for you to go to conferences. There's a lot of events taking place before the holidays get here. So you really should be outside enjoying yourself. And you can't do that when you're stuck in this ownership trap. So I want to encourage you to ask yourself what it looks like for you to be the least important person. Remember, if you have a team in place right now, hand off some of those management tasks to your team members and be confident that they can handle it just as well as you can. And if they can't, that's a great opportunity for you to have them shadow you, or for you to start coming up with some short to the point SOPs that can help them do it in your stead or in your place. Or, I'm here, I'm available, my team and I, so you can always book a eligibility call with us and we can go through what that would look like for us to begin to hand off management tasks to your team so you can be confident that it will yield effective results. Because the real pain is that you just don't know how to hand it off. And you're not confident in the quality it will produce. So you keep ownership of the task, you keep ownership of the projects, you jump in and step in and overshadow your team members when you guys have new clients because you're under the CEO ownership trap that is telling you, I'm the only one who can do this. I should keep managing everything myself. Even if you don't say that, that's what the underlying thought is, and that's the belief. So what happens? We get burned out. We get burned out. We keep ownership of everything. We get burned out, and we keep reasoning within ourselves why we should do it solo. So I want you to listen to this short episode today and ask yourself, what's a new thought? What's a new belief? And what's a new action that we can come up with so that you can get free from the ownership trap? I hope this was helpful. Quick little episode today. I hope this was helpful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Share this out with a bestie, another CEO, a business bestie who could use this. And I want you to, or I encourage you to figure out what needs to be done so you can get outside this fall season and this holiday season. Okay. All right. We'll see you for the next episode.